Hey everyone, throughout this year I've been upgrading the hardware in my computer so that I can make videos easier. I built a Homelab NAS and I also upgraded my workstation computer by changing the motherboard and the case and also putting a 10 gig networking card in. And then I done a video where I basically talked through all of this and summed it up by saying I've finished with my media content workflow. And I had some really awesome comments from all of you guys, which I really appreciate. And one thing I'm eager to do is start doing more videos where I respond to some of those comments. And that actually ties in nicely to a question that I actually had for all of you about the direction of this channel and things like that. I'll come back to that, but one of the comments on the video was from Bob, who was interested in seeing a full workflow video of exactly how I make my videos. So how do I come up with ideas, how do I research them and script them, and then actually film them and edit them and everything else. So I thought it would be pretty cool to do this video for a few different reasons. Firstly, you actually asked for it, and I'm always eager to do videos based on what you want, and I'll come back to that point in a minute. Secondly, it'd be cool to actually, if I change things in the future, to actually look back at this video and actually see what, if anything, has actually changed. And thirdly, it ties into a question I had for all of you. But let's get started with ideas. How do I actually come up with ideas for YouTube videos? Well, when I first started ramping up this channel, which was around a year ago, I basically had a blog as well, the Tech Override blog, which had a series of blog posts on there, mainly answering tech queries that people had. But to be honest, for quite a while, I've wanted to move more over to video content. So what I actually started doing on this channel is when I was coming up with ideas for videos, I was often just looking at what tech queries people had, sometimes based on the blog traffic and things like that. And I was making short videos based on that. So some of the earlier videos on this channel are literally just answering simple questions. And those videos can work really well, of course, and it's always good to help people with tech queries and things like that. But in recent months, I've been eager to sort of branch out a little bit and do more videos that are interesting in nature. And I don't mean clickbaity Mr. Beast style videos, but just things that I think people might like more than random specific search-based videos. And that actually brings me on to the question I had for all of you, which is, what videos would you want me to make more of? And which videos do you want me to make less of, if any? Please leave me a comment and actually let me know your thoughts. Have a look through the videos I've produced over the last few months, and please be honest, just let me know what's the videos you like and dislike and everything else, because in my own mind, I don't want to just do quick search-based videos that I mentioned, I did at the start of the channel. Ideally with Tech Override, I do want to dive deeper into topics, whether that's to answer somebody's tech query or do a more weird, interesting, intriguing type video. But again, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. But that's the idea phase, and obviously those ideas can come from a range of sources, but it does depend on the type of video I'm looking to produce. Then when it comes to actually researching a video, again, the approach to that is going to vary. If it's a tech query type video, I might already know the answer. For example, I got a video that just came out on how to add more NVMe space into your computers. That's something I've just researched naturally over the last few years and learned myself based on Reddit and watching YouTube videos and just playing around with things as well. So if I do a video like that, sometimes I kind of already know the answers. And then when it comes to scripting or bullet pointing the video, that can be quite easy. Sometimes I might just have like 7 or 8 bullet points there, and then I sit down in front of a camera and I just start talking. But obviously, if it's a more detailed video, like I've done a video talking about why the pros tend not to use Ethernet when it comes to high-speed networking, that was quite a detailed video. And again, I had played around with things. I've recently got a 10 gig switch and done quite a lot of networking upgrades in my study. So I kind of knew probably half of the answers there. But for anything I didn't know, it's just a case of Googling it, looking on Reddit and YouTube videos, and also diving into the UniFi web console on my own computer and poking around and just getting answers for a video. So that's generally for tech queries, how I do the research. If I'm doing a more interesting based video, you don't need to research as much. The research is almost going to be me trying something out. So can you game over a NAS, which was a recent video that I'd done. With that, I almost tried it out first. I put a bunch of games on my Synology NAS, on my Homelab NAS, and then I just tried things out and I've seen the results. And then I can almost, now that I've done that, I can then almost go back to the start in some ways and actually plan out how I'm going to package the video. So I actually do my intro last. I actually do all my research, do all that. Then I can sit down and film my intro and some bits in between, and then the ending of a video as well. So in some ways, those videos are kind of backwards. Then it comes to actually scripting things or whatever else. And basically, I've got an old laptop. It's got like a 7th gen Intel CPU. It's got terrible battery life as well. So basically need to leave it plugged in all the time because otherwise it just dies on me. But what I do on there, once I had the video planned out in my head, I'd literally have Google Docs where I'd write out a script or something like that. And then on here, I just have a free teleprompter software that would literally just keep scrolling statically. So it wouldn't listen to the words I was saying and stop if I paused or anything. It would just keep scrolling. And then what I would do is literally have the laptop there. I'd have my camera on top of it. And then I'd literally just be, reading the words and obviously talking. And that's the scripting approach. But as I've mentioned, in recent months, I'm kind of moving away from that model a little bit. And as a result, I don't really feel like I need to script things as much. I actually much prefer sitting down and just talking to the camera based on having a few bullet pointed notes instead. I feel that can work quite well. And that doesn't need to be anything fancy. It could literally be a notepad file with a few words in it or something like that. Or it might even be that I'm basing the video on a particular comment, in this case Bob's comment. So on here I've got idea, research, script, filming, editing and publishing. And every so often I'm just turning around and looking at that so I can remember which part of the video I'm at. And I'm at the scripting phase right now. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, recently I am moving away from scripting towards ad-libbing. And then it comes to filming. So I literally have a lavalier mic, which is, I upgraded recently actually the Deity PR2. So basically I've got a little microphone here, the clip goes into this recorder, and then that just records to an SD card. And that means I've got a separate audio file to my video. In terms of recording, I got a Sony a6600. So literally this camera, but with a different lens. I do have two cameras because what I found is for some videos, it's actually quite useful to maybe have one camera on me and maybe whatever I'm doing. And then also a separate camera to maybe focus on detail or something like that. The next thing then is audio, and you might have noticed another mic has just appeared in front of me. Basically, I used to have a Tascam mic, a DR10L, but recently, I've had this for quite a few years, and recently it's been clicking and making weird noises, but also this isn't the best. So recently I upgraded to a Deity PR2, and the reason I say that this isn't the best is, I'll try and switch the audio as I'm talking because both of these are recording, but basically this is quite a noisy mic. It picks up a lot of background hiss, it's called self-noise actually. It picks up a lot of background noise, and often I think when you're trying to fix that background noise, that can make your voice sounding a little bit strange. And some of my previous videos, I think the audio wasn't the best, and then I had to run the results of this through an AI voice enhancer, and that leads to weirdness as well. There's an effect called the uncanny valley, where a voice doesn't always sound like it's sort of naturally coming out of a human body, probably because of the AI filters I was using because of the poor output from this mic. So essentially I've switched over to this Deity PR2, which comes with a much better microphone, and it's also 32-bit float recording, which I won't get too technical about it, but in general, you've got more control over this. So that is the audio part of filming, and I've covered the cameras. The other things is the lighting. And right now it's a winter's day with not much sunlight. So if I was going to rely on that, then I would be really dark. And as a result, I got two lights in front of me now. I got an LED light panel thing you can kind of see there. And then I've got a softbox thing there that I won't pull towards me because it'll literally just fall over and hit me on the head and make me concussed or something. But I use those two lights, and actually that's been quite a nice upgrade because it means that when I want consistent lighting, I can get that. But obviously it does mean things are a little bit more clunky as well, because when I come to film, I kind of got a camera, I got a lavalier mic, then I got to set up lighting and things like that as well. So it is a little bit more clunky. So that is the filming phase, then I move on to the actual editing phase. And on my Deity PR2, I've got an SD card in there. It's actually really hard to access, so what I tend to do instead is just use a USB to actually move the files onto my computer. So that's a .wav file. And then when it comes to my Sony camera, that's an MP4 file, and I actually just do that via the SD card. So I take the SD card out, and I just got a simple USB SD card reader. I move the MP4 file onto my computer, and then actually, because I got the HomeLab NAS, ultimately I move those two files onto my HomeLab NAS, and that's the base. And I will show off the editing process in a minute via an OBS screen record, but I wanted to actually say, why do I have the HomeLab NAS? Because in a previous video, somebody quite correctly asked, isn't your setup a little bit overkill? And actually, yeah, right now it is a little bit overkill. When I was running out of disk space, I could have basically gone and got a 4TB NVMe drive, stuck it in my workstation computer, and everything would have been a lot easier. I wouldn't have needed to build the HomeLab NAS. So it probably would have been easier just to get a 4TB drive, and right now my setup is a bit overkill. You know, having these files that I put on my HomeLab NAS to ultimately just edit on my computer and nothing else. I don't really need a NAS for that. But next year I do hope to get a laptop which is slightly more powerful than the one I've got and doesn't have a dodgy battery. And then on that laptop, hopefully I can start doing more video editing on it, even if it's just chopping up the video files wherever I make mistakes and things like that. But But that's why, yes, my setup is a bit overkill right now, but it is built with future-proofing in mind. But now we come to the actual editing stage. So I mentioned before I used DaVinci Resolve. I did used to use Premiere Pro, but I recently moved away from that because I find DaVinci Resolve faster and it's also free. So the first thing I would do is I got my MP4 file and my .wav file that I mentioned, so my video and my audio. I would drag that onto the clip, and then basically the first thing you would do is sync everything up. The reason you need to sync things up is you can't really rely on your camera's own audio, it's not very good quality, so usually it's better to have a separate microphone, like I mentioned. Now in this particular case, you can sync in two different ways. You can use timecode, or you can use waveform analysis. I won't go into that too much, but short answer is I did actually try timecode out, but it didn't work out well, so I'm just going back to the waveform analysis version. So effectively, if I make that clip slightly louder, DaVinci Resolve allows you to just say auto-align clips based on a waveform, and it will do that. And after 10 seconds or so, it's done. So it's now done. And you can see the waveforms there, they're pretty much the same. There's always going to be slight variations just because cameras, you know, they're always going to record slightly differently. So sometimes you need to tweak things very slightly. It's a bit of an annoyance, to be honest, and that's why I tried out timecode, but it didn't really work very well for me because there's some bugs, but I won't go into that in this video. But anyway, let's say they are synced together. What I tend to do is actually group those clips together, and then I mute my camera's audio. So I kind of got this, and this is the overall view of things. So if I just go back a little bit. So that's the project. Right now it's around 46 minutes long, which is actually fairly normal. Even though this video is only going to be like 15 to 20 minutes, it's normal to have more than that, because when you're talking, there's going to be stuff you cover you just don't need in the final cut, or you just make mistakes and you need to cut that out. So effectively, the first thing I would do whenever I can see there's a mistake, or I've just took a pause or whatever, because you can see here in the waveform, you can see I'm not actually talking about anything. I'd literally go along and listen to what's being said, and I'd make a cut. So maybe here I've made a mistake or whatever. I don't actually know what I'm gesticulating about there. There, I've made a mistake there. So it might be I listen to things and I think, right, I need to cut that out, and then I can just carry on as normal. And then the next thing I would do is actually add background music. Obviously you don't need background music, it's a bit of a debate. I quite like having some form of background music just to mix things up a little bit, but essentially, I'd find a song that I like, I'd put it on my track, and then I just play with the audio levels a little bit. So I've muted my A1 track, which is my camera's onboard audio called the scratch audio, and my A2 is the natural one. What I tend to do is I set that to around volume 20 as a boost, but obviously I listen to things and tweak things. Sometimes I might tweak things more up to like +2 or something on the volume mixer. And then when it comes to my background music track, I'll lower that down to like 32 or -34 decibels, something like that. So that would be a rough cut, and then add in the actual soundtrack to things. And then the next thing is actually make the video more interesting by adding B-roll onto the screen. I've got my video, I've got my starting point there where I say, hey everyone, and I start off. And literally as I'm talking, obviously if I mention my HomeLab NAS, I'll add a clip on the screen of my HomeLab NAS. Let's just mute that. I'd add a HomeLab NAS on there, then I'm talking about something else, so I show some other B-roll on the screen, as you can see there. And then when it's all finished, I'd go over to the actual export, and there's loads of different export options. If I export it onto my computer, it'll end up as a .mov file, and then I just upload it to YouTube, and that's fairly standard. And then in YouTube, you just fill in the title and description and things like that, and then I'm ready to hit publish. And there we have it. So it's all edited in DaVinci Resolve, which I much prefer to Premiere Pro, and it's cheaper, which is always a bonus. I've exported it, I got my final MP4 or .mov file, and then I can just publish it. And what I actually do with that is I upload it to YouTube, I do all the title and description and thumbnail and all of that stuff, but I don't then hit publish. What I tend to do is actually schedule videos in advance. I don't go too far in advance, but I like to have 2 or 3 videos in the queue, just in case, when my kids is ill or I'm ill or something like that. I don't really like the pressure of having to think, right, I have to get a video out this week, I have to film it on the Monday, edit it Tuesday, Wednesday, so I can publish it Thursday, Friday. I don't really want to do that. And that actually brings me to the channel update part of this title, because there's 2 things I kind of wanted to cover. Firstly, at one point I was making videos every week on this channel, and then I sped it up to every 4 or 5 days, sometimes even publishing a video every 3 days or something, and that can work, but I kind of feel like I want to take more time and create more detailed videos, and as a result I kind of feel like I want to slow the pace slightly and maybe do 1 video a week. Again, please let me know your thoughts on that. This is quite an open video, so any thoughts, please just let me know. The second update though is, I mentioned at the start of this video, when it comes to the idea phase, at the start of this channel I used to do lots of shorter videos answering quick tech queries, things which you don't want to make a 10-minute video out of, and I've kind of stopped those videos because I want to dive deeper, but I think there is still a place for those shorter videos. So I've actually launched a channel called Shorter Tech, which I'll link to in the description, and if I can put a link up here somewhere, I'll do that as well. And on that channel, it literally is me, whenever I've got a tech query that pops up in my head, or maybe I've had a comment on Tech Overwrite that sort of asks me a question, and I know it'll only take a couple of minutes to cover, I'll do a quick video and actually put that on Shorter Tech. But I'm also quite interested in, cameras and audio and lighting and things like that. So I recently set up another channel called Tech Overwrite Studio because I couldn't think of a better name, to be honest. It's only got one video on there right now, and to be honest, I'm not going to stress about publishing videos on a schedule or anything like that. But if you're interested in, maybe learning more about the content creation side of things and camera equipment and all of that stuff, please do subscribe to that channel too, because at some point I'll probably publish another video, maybe even this year, I don't know. And that kind of wraps up this video. I want to do more videos like this where I'm just, sitting down, talking to camera, answering people's comments and also reflecting on them as well, because I feel like that's really important. I do really value all of your comments and I like chatting to all of you. And also I'd be eager to hear your thoughts on everything I've discussed in this video, particularly about what sort of videos you want me to make, and me maybe slowing down and only producing once a week on Tech Overwrite and everything else. So please do leave me a comment. Any feedback, good or bad or whatever, is really welcome. And thank you for watching this video, and thank you for all of your support so far. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what videos we all create in 2025. So thank you for watching. Bye.